Let's do it. Welcome back for another edition of The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. His real name is Cardale Jones. His nickname is Beanie Wells. My name is Dave Holmes. Make sure you follow us on social at The Script OSU. Subscribe right now. It's somewhere down here on the bottom of your screen. Click it on YouTube if you're watching with us on the video version, or subscribe to us on Apple Pod. Follow us on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Guys, where do we begin? The Ohio State Buckeyes coming off the national title, now with the win 14-7 over Texas. Cardale, your initial thoughts on the Buckeyes' big win over number one?
You know, I love it. I think they came out and they answered a lot of questions that we have had going into this offseason and really getting ready for this season. What is the quarterback position going to look like? What is the run game is going to look like? What is the chemistry between the play calling and receivers going to look like? And then the biggest question that I had all offseason, what is this defense is going to look like? With a new coordinator and so many new players playing new positions and taking on new roles, they answer every question I had, and this is the scary part about this team. Is only the beginning. They're going to continue to get better.
Yeah, okay, so let's just go one by one here because I have 7 or 8 things I want to break down. So let's start with the big one, and that's Julian Sayin. And look, statistically, it didn't pop off the screen, but if you were just watching the game, the moment wasn't too big for him. So his receivers didn't help him out, and that's probably the only time we'll use that sentence all season. They had a couple drops on well-thrown balls. So Beanie, how did you think Sayin looked in the moment?
I loved everything that I saw from him. You know, the biggest thing I think that everybody should look at when evaluating a young quarterback is if they have command of the offense. It didn't look like he didn't understand what was going on. He went through his progressions, went through his reads. I think there was maybe only one read that he missed, and that was the long, deep ball where Jeremiah was wide open. But outside of that, he made decisive decisions. He threw the ball well, and he commanded the offense. And I know it was a little bit vanilla, and Hartline didn't throw a bunch at him. But I think that's what you want out of a young quarterback. 100%. You want to put him in a situation to where they're going to be comfortable and not have to make a lot of big reads to where they make mistakes. But I thought he played phenomenal. He can zip it.
Can you watch it as a fan, Cardale, or as a quarterback? Are you sitting there breaking down every play when Julian's dropping back?
I'm watching it strictly as a quarterback. It's hard to watch games as a fan because, you know, I got the question, what did I give him a grade-wise? I gave him a B. And I think that was highly, highly acceptable, giving him a B from his performance, because 1, I think he's going to be way more critical on himself than we can ever be, and then 2, going against the number 1 team in the country. Now, on the flip side, if Julian would have played this type of game versus the Akron, our conversation would be a little different.
Right.
But this was the number 1 team in the country, arguably one of the top defenses in the country, and he wasn't sacked once. And like Beanie said, the pressure, the situation was not too much for him. And then you look at Ryan Day comments in the post-game press conference, basically making sure they didn't put him in bad positions. It was only 1 or 2 real bad positions they was in as an offense when it came to 3rd and long or being behind the sticks that you're asking your quarterback to go out there and make a play and really drop back and say, hey, find an open guy. But for the most part, this was a flawless game plan execution that was, and I'm giving more credit to the play calling versus the execution, because they did a great job of putting him in positions for success.
Yeah, I remember C.J. Stroud's first year. He started slow statistically, and then it was right around week 4 or 5. It may have been Rutgers, I want to say. It was like off a bye week, and then just like the light bulb went off on C.J. And I think you'll see that with Sayin. I thought this was a nightmare scenario to have him start week 1 against Texas. So for him just to get the win, I think is a massive, massive thing for them. And now, like you said, Cardale, we want to see some stats now. The next couple weeks, you get Grambling, OU. Now, on the flip side, Arch Manning. Okay, so last week I came on the show and I said I thought this whole Heisman runaway, number 1 pick in the draft stuff was nonsense. Not because I don't think he can get there. We're just so quick, guys, to appoint the next thing. And you know who used to be the next thing? Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
He was the next thing. And then they were ready to move on from him to Arch, and now he's the next thing. Arch may still be that guy. And I think now the hate has gone too far after the game. People are acting like he's a lost cause. But I just think this is, you know, Beanie, a reminder that we just need to pump the brakes and let guys prove who they are first. And like I said, he might do it over the next 11 games. Just not quite yet.
Right. I mean, especially at the quarterback position, you know, you got to watch a guy develop. And I know we saw him bits and pieces of his game last year, but we got to also look at the competition in which we saw him have starting opportunities. You know, he was going against a top 5 team in the country, an Ohio State team that is loaded with talent. And then we can't forget about the fact that he was going against a new defensive coordinator at Ohio State, but that defensive coordinator being a multiple-time Super Bowl winning champion defensive coordinator in Matt Patricia. So he game planned well. He put pieces to the puzzle exactly the way that they needed to be to slow him down and to make him think a little bit. And when you're a young quarterback, when you're a young player in general, Cardale, you can attest to this. When you're thinking out there on the field and you're not processing at a great speed, you're playing slow. So you're a little bit slow and delayed in your releases and your reads. And I think we saw that from Arch. I think in the fourth quarter, we saw him be a little bit better, but nonetheless, throughout the whole game in its entirety, he was off.
He was rattled.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think to your point, Beanie, though, Cardale, I think if this game goes 5 quarters, the Buckeyes might get a little nervous because Arch started to feel himself a little bit at the end of the game, but overall they kept him off balance.
Yeah, they kept him off balance. Did a great job. And the thing about all the hype that he came in here with, it'll be a different conversation and feeling for me if Arch was coming off as that type of player, like self-proclaiming that he's going to be that guy, the Heisman. But he don't.
It's thrown on him. It's been put on him. Yeah.
And that's what I love about him personally. He has that mentality, that mindset. Said, I still got to go out there and improve myself, and not just to the fans or the media who's thinking I'm all this great person, but to myself and my teammates.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I really love about this kid, and I know that he's going to grow into the player that we all think that he's going to be one day. But it goes back to my comments all year leading up to this game. He is still very, him and Julian Sayin is pretty much to me in the same position. Young quarterbacks, Arch is a few years older, but young quarterbacks with the lack of experience and have all the ability in the world, but also got to come into their own when we talk about being a top quarterback at one of the most prestigious universities when you talk about football programs in Texas and Ohio State.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, by the way. Everything I said is about fans and media, people who are putting that on Arch. He's never once stood up and said, I'm the guy, I'm the number 1 pick in the draft. That's all been put on him. Now, a name that Beanie brought up a minute ago, Matt Patricia. Look, there was a segment of the population, I don't think it's overwhelming, but some people are saying this guy, he flamed out as a head coach in the NFL, which I don't think dictates how you're going to be as a college D coordinator, but that was a narrative out there. Some people are saying he hasn't been in the college game since Syracuse more than 20 years ago as an assistant. I don't know about this hire. And again, I'm not going to sit here and say that Matt Patricia is the best hire of all time after 4 quarters. But
it looked like it.
But the early reviews are in, and they are good, Beanie. I mean, I'll say this, that is a very good outing for game 1 of a coordinator with not Jim Knowles' team last year of 11 experienced guys, with only 2 or 3 guys who played big minutes.
That's the more impressive thing is the amount of guys that we had that hadn't played football.
Yes.
When you go and look at our defensive line, they were all new. All 4 guys, the defensive tackles, the ends, and then guys at the skill positions. But the fact that, there were so many, in my opinion, coverage sacks. That was the most beautiful thing. Our defensive line did a great job getting pressure, but the coverages he put our defense in to where it was confusing to the young quarterback, he didn't know where to go with the football. And I thought that was so impressive because it's week 1. Yeah. We know how hard it is to call a defensive game plan, but to do it versus a creative offense and Steve Sarkisian in the way that he called plays and to really just shut it down, that's impressive as heck, man.
Yeah, Cardale, as a quarterback, what were you seeing that Patricia was doing that might throw Arch off balance?
He did a great job of giving you a post-snap read, and then pre-snap read was and look was completely different. He got guys all around the field. At one point in time, you got Caleb Downs in the middle of the field almost as a linebacker level. Then you got David Sanchez coming in off the sideline, and you putting Jermaine Matthews in the inside, and you moving Arvell Reese over top of the guard in certain situations. He did a great job of keeping confusion, not just on the quarterback, but on those 4 new offensive linemen trying to protect your all-world quarterback. That was the biggest thing for me because it was some coverage stacks in there as well, but it was a lot of miscommunication from the big guys up front, from all the different looks. When you got 3 linebackers on one side and then 2 D, it was great. It was great to see.
There was a play with Arvell Reese. And Cardale, you've been high on Arvell, and you've been talking about him.
I told you.
He bought stock when it was cheap. We can't afford it now.
He is real. There was a play with Arvell Reese where
Green Dog.
He stepped up, he dropped back like he was going to coverage, then came right back on the blitz. I'm like, what the hell is this right here?
That's NFL stuff. But
it is.
And it's called Green Dog, and basically it throws the offensive line off. It's basically giving you the communication. When that guy is standing up right in front of you as a guard, you're making some type of call to the offensive line. I got him. And when he drops into coverage, now as a guard, you're looking to go help a tackle or the center. Arvell timed it up perfectly. So right when he dropped, had his eye on that guard. As soon as that guard put his head on that left tackle to help him, Arvell came. So those are NFL type of things that these guys are getting accustomed to and learning right now to prepare them for the next level. But what do you expect? You got an NFL Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator on that side of the ball.
I got to say it. He reminds me of Ryan Shazier 2.0.
Not as fast, but with things you can do with him, I agree.
Man, it was crazy to watch.
And something else I noticed from the defensive backs, turning and looking for the ball. And I know that's a small little thing, guys, but the DBs were hanging with guys in coverage, and so often we saw dumb penalties over the last couple of years. They played really, really well out there on the perimeter.
Yeah, and then you look at even the touchdown that they gave up. Unfortunately, you can't defend timing and ball placement. But you look at Jermaine Matt, he was in position. He was. I mean, you talk about a game of inches. I mean, he's that far away from getting another PBU in the end zone during a big play. But yeah, you go back to the time that I watched these guys practice in spring and going through fall camp, practicing with boxing gloves on their hands so they can't grab a guy, or practicing getting their head around individual drills and emphasizing some of those things. IGB, he was a guy that finished last season not the way. He was a guy that we anticipated going into last season. He wouldn't be here this year.
Right.
But coming back to try to perfect some of those things that we saw late in the season with him of not getting his head around or being a little bit handsy. He had not one pass on him all day. Not one penalty. So the improvement from this past offseason, I didn't know this defense and this team can get so much better after winning a national title with so many more new, inexperienced guys, and they did.
Now, if you looked at the box score, if you didn't watch the game, you would see Texas had more passing yards, more rushing yards. They were better on third down. But it was funny because this was like a big game for coaching cliches, all right, because every coaching cliche played true in this game. They beat them on fourth down. They were 1 for 5. Making plays, right? Air quotes, making plays. They had more penalties, and they lost the turnover battle. Beanie, it was like a trestle. It was like trestle. This is the type of game he talked about. Every one of those little coaching cliches proved to be a difference in this game.
You got to check the boxes. The play of the game, in my opinion, was that 4 for 1 on the goal line. That spoke volumes about this defense and football team. It's 1 yard. It's mano a mano. They're going for it, and it's like, stop me. And they stonewalled them. I thought that was amazing, and then we just watched the defense feed off of that injury the rest of the game. I felt like they had so much more confidence in what they were doing after you stonewall a team who is, quite frankly, the number 1 team in the country coming in. So I love everything about this football team right now. I'm excited. We can go on and on and on about the good things that we saw, but I know we got to hit some of this bad at some point.
But I mean, you look at our guys down there in Texas with the Stampede podcast with Vince Young and Mac Brown. What was Vince Young's number 1 concern about this Texas team as we spoke about our concerns about our own programs, and it was the red zone success, right? Look what Ohio State did to them in the bowl game. Look what Ohio State just did to them right here at the shoe. Stopped them on critical fourth down situations and short and fourth and goal situations where Texas walked away with no points.
All right, so we've been very scarlet-colored glasses for about 13 minutes. Let's now get critical, guys. All right, so coming up next, a week 2 opponent is Grambling. All right, I saw some simulation that said Ohio State has a 99% chance of beating Grambling. Apparently, there's a 1% chance that the bus breaks down on the way to the shoot. I'm going to put it at 100%. But Beanie, what do you want to see better out of the Buckeyes in week 2?
Oh man, the biggest thing for me is the run game.
2.3 yards a carry against Texas.
I did not like it, and I love the fact that the way our offensive line was moving people. I mean, there were plays where literally, I think everybody probably seen the clip at this point in time, and I hope we play it. They had their defensive line on skates.
Parson Henselman and Luke Montgomery, I think it was.
Moving them back so far. And, our running back play has to be better. We got to get more yards per carry. We can't, when it's blocked for 2, I always say if it's blocked for 2, you got to get me 4. That's what I tell my young running backs. And we had plays that were blocked for 5 and we were only getting 5. I think we got to be a lot better in that department. And I know Carlos Loughlin will be honed in on those running backs, and they'll be honed in on themselves. I go back to my first game starting at Ohio State. Versus Youngstown State my sophomore year. I had like 16 carries and 46 yards versus Youngstown State. That was ugly, atrocious, and I'm pissed off. I didn't come out the house all week until the next week. And, I had a good game versus the University of Akron, but hopefully these running backs go back and look at that. Yes, we got the victory, but I think at Ohio State, at the running back position, you expect so much more greatness out of that group, and I think they'll get there.
Were you just trying to say on Tressel's good side by going easy against Youngstown State?
No. It was just an ugly game, ugly reads. I had to, answer my pants, just so jittery and just not read anything at all. It was trifling.
All right, Cardale, give me something you want to see better against Grambling in week 2.
I would say as well, as you have a young quarterback, you got to have a great run game, and I think it attests to that as well, not just being, I think the emphasis was on protecting Julian a lot going into this game with the passing protection, and maybe lost a little bit of the emphasis on the run blocking and all the communication that happens with the big guys up front. We're breaking in some new linemen as well. A lot of guys with a lot of different moving parts. Got experience playing at a high level, but a lot of different moving parts. So I would like to see that chemistry of the big guys up front continue to develop so we can have a successful run game, because we all know how the weather gets here in the Midwest, and particularly in Ohio, here in late October, early November, as we compete and try to make a championship run.
Yeah, I think if you're a Buckeye fan, you feel ecstatic that you get that win over number one. You now have 2 games against Grambling and OU to kind of figure out who you are, hone your identity, and then it's going to be a big time when you go on the road against Washington. That'll be a true test. But we're just getting started here on The Script, the podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Coming up next, we're going to give you our parlay picks for week 2. And I hope you paid attention in week 1, because you'd be feeling pretty good in your bank account right now. Stay with us. Welcome back to The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Give us a follow on social at The Script OSU. Subscribe right now on YouTube, Apple Pod, or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. All right, guys. So our friends from Prime Sportsbook, all right, they sponsor the show here. They have this new thing where you can actually earn points. It's called Prime Rewards. So every time you make a bet, you earn points. You can turn those points into free bets. And we thought it would be fun every week for the 3 of us to build a 3-leg parlay. Each of us pick a leg, and the way it's going to work is we're going to put $20 on it. And if it wins, we split the profits. If it loses, whoever costs us the leg has to foot the bill. So let's recap week 1 here. All right. So Cardale had Georgia Tech -4.5 against Dion's Colorado Buffaloes. That was a victory. Ching. Beanie, the hater that he is, took New Mexico +34.5 at the Big House. Cha-ching. And it comes to last night. Okay, we're recording this on Tuesday, so it came to Monday night. I have TCU -3 against Carolina, Belichick's debut. The Heels are driving on their opening drive. They haven't even scored yet.
Good.
And I get a group text from Cardale saying, Dave's going to blow it for us. Well, luckily, Belichick laid over and died after that. So TCU hit. So we already won $120 on our first 20. This is an easy game.
Easy peasy.
This is easy, guys.
House money.
So we won a 6-1 parlay week 1. Hopefully you played along with us, and then you won $120 as well. All right, guys, week 2. Let's keep this rolling. What do we have? Cardale, give me your first leg this week.
You know what? I think this is a prove-it year for my guy out there at USC, Lincoln Riley, and I got USC versus Georgia State -28. They won last week by 60 points. And I think this is going to be another statement game, trying to run up those points and trying to make a case early to develop some momentum for the college football playoffs. But USC -28 over Georgia State.
Okay, Beanie, give me leg number 2.
Leg number 2 is Oklahoma over Michigan -5.
Is this going to be a thing, Beanie? Is this going to be a thing every week?
Very well might be, nonetheless.
Let me just say this. In the world of parlay, Michigan's not going 0-12 against the spread, my man. So at some point, they're going to – all right, keep going. Go ahead.
You never know. But the fact that Oklahoma, has John Mateer, they're getting back on track. I like the way he played last week. I'm excited about this Oklahoma football team.
Sharon Moore, though. I mean, that's the homecoming game for Sharon Moore. He's going to be excited.
It's the wrong homecoming game.
All right. I'm going to go to the NFL for mine, and I'm going to take our guy Mike Vrabel, former Buckeye, in his debut with the New England Patriots. He's a home favorite against the Vegas Raiders by 2.5. For the life of me, I cannot understand this line. All right, so both teams were 4-13 last year. We know the Patriots are going to take a big step forward with Vrabel as head coach. They added some playmakers like Kyle Williams in the draft, Travion Henderson. Vrabel's made every team better than the sum of its parts. And they also have year 2, Drake May at home, Vegas going across the country. I don't even know why that line's 2.5. That is a stone cold lock. So I'm not footing the bill this week. I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
Let's see.
All right. So I want to ask you about this with these big lines. All right. So like Ohio State, I haven't even seen a line on it yet because it's Grambling. They're going to be favored by so much. Do you get nervous though when you're trying to take some 35, 45-point line, because then that other team against your backups late in the fourth quarter scores that TD? I don't know. Do you guys get scared by the big line?
You know what? As a sports bettor now, I do because of that type of situation. And then usually it's so hard to get up for those type of games. I mean, if the line is 35.5 and you win 35-0, you're like, man, what is going on as a team in those type of situations? But I think Alabama line this week is like 48.5. I saw Texas versus San Jose State. I think it's like 49.5.
Yeah.
Like, well, these guys scored 7 points the whole season. So what are you talking about? So they're always scary. But I kind of go with my gut on these things where, like Michigan last week, 35.5, I think it was, versus New Mexico. And I usually take, the underdogs in that situation to cover.
Yeah. So, Beanie, you were on that game last week, and I understand part of it's your Michigan shtick, which I respect. But what were your thoughts on, Bryce Underwood's first start? I mean, Michigan in the big house. It was we were all kind of blown away they gave him the starting job.
Yeah, no, we were blown away, but I liked the way that he played. When you look at him, the way he delivered the ball, stood in the pocket, made good decisions, similar to how I talked about Julian Sayin, a young quarterback being in his first start in college football. I think the biggest thing you want to see is how is he under pressure? And I thought Bryce Underwood showed up under pressure. And then the fact that they added running back Justice Hayes there,
who
went off.
Bama
Bama running back. He looked dang good, like over 150 yards and 3 touchdowns. They did things on the offensive end to make him comfortable in that situation.
Well, how hard is it to make a kid comfortable versus New Mexico?
I knew you was great to say that.
Okay.
I knew you were going that route.
So let me ask you this, Cardale. I was the only guy who took the over on Michigan's wins in our preseason show. All right. Do you guys want to pivot now?
No.
After what so you're still under their 8.5.
I'm still taking the under 8.5, and maybe we'll see how they play. Win, lose, or draw. I want to see a tough fought game versus Oklahoma this upcoming week, and then maybe that have a deciding factor on that.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think, man, some of the road games and some of the environments, I think it's going to be a tall task to ask from a freshman quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I really view this Michigan team this year just like I kind of view the Nebraska team last year.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of moving parts, and the biggest new position is the quarterback position. Being young and inexperienced, but we'll see.
It's kind of interesting to see these quarterbacks transfer all over the world of college football. One of the biggest ones in the offseason was Carson Beck, former Georgia Bulldog, now with Miami. Hurricanes get a big win on opening night against Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame. So, all right, Beanie, we ask this question about every year. Is Miami back? Is this a legitimate Miami team?
That was a legitimate statement. Most certainly beating Notre Dame in the way that they did. I thought it was a tight ball game throughout, but Carson Beck stepped up, made plays. And I asked the question on a show last week, would Mario Cristobal catch lightning in a bottle twice with transfer quarterbacks? And it's certainly looking like it, because Carson Beck made good decisions, delivered the ball. His numbers weren't all types of gaudy in terms of the yardage, but he was very efficient and made big plays when the offense needed it the most. And I think the biggest thing with Miami was their defense last year. This year, they looked a whole lot better versus Notre Dame.
Yeah, Cam Ward and now Carson Beck. I mean, Carter, they look for real. It is week 1. So, again, I'm trying to pump the brakes on all overreaction here, but that's a good win over Notre Dame.
That was a great win over Notre Dame, and I'm more excited about Carson Beck as well and finding a new home in Miami, because that was kind of my knock on him at Georgia. It's like, dude, you're going out there 99% of the time better than the other team. And then even outside of that, you wasn't asked to do much on offense. Find Brock Bowers and let your defense, you got 40 first-round picks on defense, let them finish these guys off. And he's in a position now in Miami where he is going to be the guy that's going to go out there and put the game on your shoulders. And he did that versus Miami, and I think did that versus Notre Dame, and he played a great game.
Carson Beck looks like Napoleon Dynamite. I'm showing a picture right here. They look just alike. It was from a group chat during the game. They look just freaking alike, man. Crazy. He threw like Uncle Rico, too.
Over that mountain.
Right.
I can see
They ain't have Daniels to go get that ball up with one hand. That thing went over that mountain.
So to recap our Prime Sportsbook parlay this week, Cardale's got USC -28. Beanie's got Oklahoma -5. I have the New England Patriots -2.5. 3 favorites. What could go wrong? 3 favorite parlay. Hey, by the way, make sure you get on Prime Sportsbook and you take advantage of that new Prime Rewards program. Must be 21 and over to play. Odds subject to change. If you think you might have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Coming up next, we're going to offer up our Buckeye basement solutions, because there are a few teams in college football that look broken. We are going to analyze those teams coming up next on The Script, the podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Breakfast might be the most important choice you make all day. That's because with Wendy's 2 for $3 breakfast, you can mix and match your very own favorite perfect pairing of our delicious morning favorites.
With this breakfast deal, the choice is all yours, not someone else's. Isn't that how breakfast should be? It's your breakfast after all, not Martha's. She can pick her own breakfast. This one is all on you.
No matter what you choose, from our sausage biscuit with that grilled breakfast sausage, or the egg and cheese biscuit with freshly cracked grade A egg and melty American cheese on a fluffy buttermilk biscuit, a small size of perfectly seasoned potatoes, or a medium hot coffee to power you through the morning.
All you got to do is pick your favorite ideal morning pair. You really can't lose, because you're the one calling the shots. The choice is all yours. Wake up to Wendy's 2 for $3 breakfast just the way you want.
Limited time only during breakfast hours. U.S. prices and participation may vary. No substitutions, not valid in the combo, single item at regular price.
Welcome back to The Script, a podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. I'm Dave Holmes with Cardale Jones and Beanie Wells. As always, hit us up on The Script OSU on all social platforms. All right, guys, Buckeye Basement Solutions loves to sponsor the show. We love them too. If you have any issues with your basement, I'm talking waterproofing, cracks, give them a call, Buckeye Basement Solutions. And we love to come up with our Buckeye Basement Solutions on this show for some things that are broken in college football. So let's start with that running game of Ohio State. 2.3 yards a carry. We talked about it at the top of the show. Beanie, how would you assess and fix what's wrong with this running game?
I assess it by, obviously getting the running backs together, watching that film, and going over the missed reads and the missed opportunities that they had. The way to fix it is just to keep on going. Keep practicing hard. Keep going through your reads and going through your progressions as a running back, but just honing in on pressing the line of scrimmage a little bit more, bringing the defense and the linebackers down, then making a move. Because there were just small things. I mean, I think both of these running backs have talent, but just small, fine details that stop them from making those big home run type plays.
Cardale, when you look at film like this, I mean, how much, when you're in that room with those guys, how much is it the coaches and the scheme? How much is the players? Like, what's the give and take there on who has to step up and say, you know what, I got to be better here?
It's a mixture of all of the above, because at the end of the day, if it's a coaching and a scheme, they don't understand that, then it's on the players and make sure you run the scheme that they understand. And not saying that's the situation here with Ohio State, but I do think the emphasis was much more on protecting and having a young quarterback comfortable, and then we probably missed a little bit on basically making sure our five guys up front was gelling together in the run game. So I would bring the offensive line and the running backs together to watch the film and then see how we can get on the same page. I think it's a very easy and simple fix because we're not dealing with guys who don't have the talent or the ability.
Well, the good news is it's fun to do a Buckeye Basement Solution for your running game when you're 1-0 with a win over Texas. Meantime, down in Tuscaloosa, they are reeling. I mean, our boys are down bad down there in Tuscaloosa right now. Okay, so Alabama, if you guys missed it, they lost to Florida State. I believe they only lost by a score, but my goodness, it was way less.
It looked way worse.
It looked way worse than what that final score was. So, guys, I hate to get on a coach this soon in his tenure, but it certainly looks like Bama fans are jumping off the bandwagon here down south.
Oh, there's no question that they're jumping off that bandwagon. Yeah. We talked to both Damian Harris, who works with us as well, and he said Bama is Bama no longer. They're not the same Alabama, and that's from one of their former running backs. And when you look at Bama, they look like a completely different team. They do not have an identity on both sides of the ball. This was one of the first times I can sit there and watch an Alabama football team to where they couldn't run the ball and they couldn't rush the passer. And when you got a guy in Tommy Castellanos who before the season talked about how he couldn't wait to put it on you because there's no Nick Saban to save you, and your guys go out and play with the effort in which they played with, kind of embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you look at Caleb DeBoer, and I was always confused about this hire and why Alabama will even offer him this type of position.
Why he left?
Yeah. I'm not moving my family from Washington to Alabama, especially where I think the expectations at Washington was way more realistic for him in this point in his career than the expectations of replacing Nick Saban. So I don't know if it was a financial decision. I don't know if it was an ego decision or what, but Caleb DeBoer can still be considered a good up and coming head coach right now if he's still at Washington, especially with this team Washington have coming back this upcoming year. And going down to Alabama, I agree with Damon. This is not the same Alabama team that we grew up watching, the same one I played against, the same one that won the championship with Mac Jones and Devontae Smith and those guys. The biggest concern for me about this Alabama team is no discipline at all, either side of the ball, which is something that you would never be able to say about Alabama as an organization, as a program. And two things I would say about this. Some of that behavior going back to last year as DeBoer started his tenure there, you either coaching it or allowing it. And I don't know which one is worse, but you can see the effort is not there. You can see the discipline is not there. The physicality is not there, let alone the playmaking ability is just not there.
Like we talked about it on one of the shows, that they're not used to going into a building to where they're not being cussed out.
Yeah.
That's how it was with Nick Saban. Now they're going into the building, every's nice, the coaching staff is nice.
Hey, let's go do our TikToks before the game,
exactly.
guys.
Like none of that was going on with Nick Saban.
And honestly, and I don't know how people are going to take this, but they're not even recruiting the same types of players. The players don't even look the same there. Like, don't get me wrong, the West Coast type of players that you usually see is not Bama players. right? All the finessing is not Bama players. Bama recruit in probably 3.5 states and maybe 4 in that radius of right there. And it's just not the same anymore.
It's funny because they were a blue blood for so long, and then they were down for a stretch, and then Saban came in and got them back to the glory years. And I think programs like Alabama, look at Tennessee, has kind of done the up and down. I mean, we've seen it with other programs who consider themselves blue bloods. Miami is a great example.
Georgia as well.
Exactly. And that was why after the 4th straight loss to Michigan last year, when everyone started the fire Ryan Day stuff, that's why I said pump the brakes, because you get this expectation as a fan base that, like, it's always going to be good, no matter who we bring in. And I think this is showing that sometimes you need to value stability, right? And I think that, and they were patient with Ryan Day, and now he has, I mean, are you serious right now that the run Ohio State's on right now with wins in a row over Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, Notre Dame, Tennessee again? I mean, 5 straight, or Texas again, 5 straight top 10. So I just think Bama is a cautionary tale for everyone who thinks it's always going to be good no matter who you bring in. That's not necessarily the case. And a similar story down in North Carolina, where you think you bring in this head coach. Bill Belichick comes in, and you get maybe the greatest coach in NFL history. But it's been weird. It's been very TMZ all offseason with Belichick and the girlfriend and what's going on. And then they lay an egg. Now, thankfully, they laid an egg for the 3rd leg of our Prime Sportsbook parlay. Appreciate you. But, guys, when you look at what North Carolina's doing, I mean, that is demoralizing. I don't want to say Belichick's dead on arrival week 1. But those players and that coaching staff, this is a soul-searching week in Chapel Hill. Because if you talk about buy-in, to get throttled on your home field in a stadium that probably won't be full the rest of the season, on that side of hype, you had the national TV audience. That was an all-time egg laying by the heels.
It was terrible. But the fact that, and I don't even know if people really put much stock in this, but I think you have to. The fact that they brought in was Mark Lombardi, and they overhauled the roster by 70 players.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. When you bring in 70 new guys, and I understand trying to bring in your guys and try to get them to buy in, but this isn't the NFL. This is college football. So some of these individuals that you have on your roster, you have to go through the growing pains and develop. But to bring in 70 new players and expect them to go out and, be dominant in the football game week 1, that's a tall task, because they haven't been here long enough. And then 2, how do you, mentally and emotionally connect with 70 new guys to a place? That's hard as heck.
Yeah, and the thing is, Belichick's not 43. So, Cardale, I just wonder how this is going to go, because this is a guy who's supposed to be rebuilding the program. The conspiracy theorists thought he was going to come in there, do 1 and done or 2 and done to try to remake his case for an NFL head coach. It's not going well after week 1. Are you staying on the Belichick bandwagon, or are you already kind of have 1 foot off, ready to jump off?
I wouldn't say I was already on the bandwagon.
You were never on to begin with.
I mean, clearly I want to see him have success at any level of football that he's coaching at, because of what he's done at the highest level, and I respect him with the fullest in that regards. But yeah, I just never saw it. Right. I think with a guy going into the college world with no experience of coaching college as a head coach, on top of all the changes from NIL to transfer portal to everything that what college football is today, maybe the old ways he would have success in those type of environments. But I don't think, I didn't have a high expectation of him just walking in year 1 to make it happen. My theory was always being here for a year or 2 and being able to turn it over to his son as the head coach in there, so he can really start his head coaching career as a college coach. But to expect this guy to go out here and have success, especially in a very competitive ACC, you look at what Duke has been doing the last couple of years, Clemson, I mean, Dabo Swinney is the most winning coach in ACC history, and then Florida State is looking really good, and then SMU, and so, and then, I don't expect a lot from this guy in his first year, not just his first year as a head coach in college football, but his first year ever coaching in college football.
And Beanie, I would argue that it's almost easier to be the CEO at the NFL level now and manage a salary cap. And I understand head coaches aren't necessarily doing that, but my point is there are more off-the-field headaches as a college head coach now.
100%.
Exponentially more than being an NFL. And it wasn't that way. It was like for 20 years, it's like, oh, man, the NFL head coach is doing 90-hour weeks. And it's like now with the NIL and all the other stuff and the portal, it is way more grinding to be a college coach. And when you're in your 70s, to me, I just don't get it.
Yeah. I can't see him sticking around too long. I mean, just one, he's used to having the bulk of the control of the organization. And while he probably still does at North Carolina, but let's not, we can't negate the fact that the NIL era is giving these players a lot more control, because if they don't like what you're saying, they don't like how you coaching them, they leave it. And so you got to appease them a little bit more than probably he's used to doing. And Belichick didn't seem like the most relatable guy to his players. You either bought into a system or you didn't. And at the college rim, you got to get players that you relate to. They got to be able to relate to you. You got to be able to, talk to them in certain ways that whatever you're preaching, they got to be able to buy into it. So it's a lot harder at the college level than NFL, because one, they know it's a job at the NFL, and college, I mean, these are still kids, 17, 18, 19-year-old kids.
And not 53 of them at the NFL level.
Right.
You're talking almost double the kids, Cardale.
Yeah, for sure. And then, like, Beanie made a great point of you hear stories about playing up in Green Bay. You hear stories about playing in New England. It was just that way of ball. And that's why those programs historically has always been good, because, with all due respect to those parts of the country, it was just that was the only thing you do there was, you was a football player. So the off the field issues wasn't predominant there, because there's not a lot of things to do. Supposedly, the college campus. It's a lot. You got to deal with a lot. Not just your players getting to practice and doing that. You got a headache about classes. You got a headache about, party and everything else consists with a college student. And if I was him, I would have never took a college job. It must be crazy.
A lot of distractions on a college campus. Young women, Belichick knows about that, right? He knows about that. Man, that's 2 zingers on Billy in a row. All right, we'll go easy on Bill. By the way, if you want to fix your basement, our guys at Buckeye Basement Solutions have you covered. Get on BuckeyeBasementSolutions.com. Give them a call, 614-956-4592. That'll do it for us here on a Grambling edition, where we didn't even talk about Grambling. You want to break down Grambling film before we leave? I think we're good on Grambling.
I think we're good. I think
we're good.
I gotta hit on Joey Aguilar, though.
Oh,
Joey Aguilar.
Yes. Okay, go off, King.
Transferred, obviously, to Tennessee.
No, it was a trade.
Yeah, it was a trade, essentially, right?
Yeah.
They traded quarterbacks.
Player to be named later.
Oh, man, and I can't believe, the way Nico played this week. And UCLA loses 43-10. Joey Aguilar goes to Tennessee, and they throttle Syracuse. Sorry, Pete. But nonetheless, one quarterback played great. The other one played awful.
Yeah.
And he was one of those guys that they said wanted more money. It looks like Tennessee probably made the best decision letting him walk.
UCLA's like, they're
100%.
searching their pockets.
Right.
Like, do we still have the receipt for Nico? Where's the receipt? Can we return this? Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, in the portal era, to see, not every guy is going to end up in the right spot. And week 1, not kind to the Bruins. All right, make sure you join us next week for another edition of The Script, the podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Subscribe right now on YouTube. Follow us at The Script OSU. We'll see you back here next Wednesday.